Yeah, I'll start presenting my screen. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, I think I've been asked to give you this talk. I'm actually, when Srikanth approached me, I felt really happy because I've been working as a chemical engineer in pharma industry, moving on from role to role, kind of a thing. This gave me an opportunity to look back at what I've done and then what I can share with you, kind of thing. I don't want to necessarily take this as a teaching opportunity, kind of thing. You guys, I want to introduce you to some of the concepts and some of the things that I've done over my career, so that at least you guys get to get a feeling saying that what chemical engineers can do in the pharma industry and what happens in the pharma industry, kind of thing. So I'll try to tailor my talk for about 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes, and then you guys can have an opportunity to ask me questions or discuss anything that I haven't covered or things like that. So as far as the overview, Aditi has clearly walked you through in terms of what I've done in my career. So I don't need to touch on that again. Um, this chemical engineering, I mean, what I wanted to do is I just wanted you guys to give you a feeling, I mean, an impression of what chemical engineering is from my perspective. You guys have all been learning chemical engineering. Your teachers have been doing a great job of teaching all the fundamentals and things like that. But as an industry, somebody who has graduated 25 years ago, kind of thing, what I feel chemical engineering is, kind of thing. I'll introduce you to that, what we learn versus what we practice and things like that. And then take you into, and give you some examples of what I have done or what chemical engineers can do in this industry. Then slowly introduce you to the pharma industry and what type of organizations are there, what fields of chemical engineering is used in the pharma industry, and things like that. And then lead you into what chemical engineers can do, what can they contribute, what roles and jobs can they perform in the industry and take the industry forward, kind of thing. And then lastly, a little bit of my perspective on where the industry is going, what the future outlook for bright engineers who are coming out like you guys, kind of thing. So that is the plan. Srikanth, if you have anything to interrupt, just let me know, because when I'm presenting, I can't see myself. I can't see myself.
Yeah, no problem. You can go. I think
Yeah.
if at all students have anything, they will write the chat box. The
Yeah.
moderator will be asking you in the if at all anything is there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, at the end of the session, you will be they'll ask the questions. We'll give a chance to directly to speak to you.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So let's skip this. So this one, when I say chemical engineering, for me, the basic thing is the processes are developed in the laboratories. Um, so, I mean, I found these some of the illustrations, kind of thing, which to give you a quick overview of what I'm talking about, kind of thing. If you see the picture on the left side, this cute little graphic with some Bunsen burner and some flasks and things like that. What the illustrator is showing here is something. I mean, there's a solution here. They're heating it. Some low volatile solutions are coming. They're bubbling it through, and then once they're going through, they're taking a primary cut here, maybe a low volatile, I mean, high volatile solution here, and low volatile solution is here. Probably this is the end product, in my opinion. So this is what the graphic reads. So this is a very uh, uh, true picture of what a lab generates, what a process chemistry lab gives out to the industry or anybody who's designing the plant, kind of thing. See, this is what we want you to put into practice, kind of thing. It is our job as chemical engineers / mechanical engineers and all these engineers, kind of thing, right? Our job to translate that into this plant, the bottom right box that you see. So this Bunsen burner does not work in the industry, right? So you have to have a heating source, and you cannot have glass flasks mounted on these kind of stainless steel stands and all. You need to have reaction vessels with fixed piping, and any emissions that are coming through, you need to have some sort of a proper way of dealing with them and things like that. So in essence, if you ask me, the chemical engineering is essentially converting this kind of a cute little paper sketches that chemists draw into an operating plant where you produce the product on a consistent basis. You design, produce the product on a consistent basis. It doesn't need to be pharmaceutical, right? It can be anything. It can be fine chemical, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, anything like that, or petrochemicals where you take crude and distill it, generate different hydrocarbon products, kind of a thing, or any consumer products for that matter, anything. So this, in my opinion, is the essence of chemical engineering: is translating a process from the lab into a workable manufacturable process, kind of thing. Okay. So in the college, as you guys are reading through, I mean, I've been told that the audience is comprising of second year to fourth year students, kind of thing. If you are a second year student, you're probably entering into some of these subjects as reaction engineering or heat transfer, maybe, and then slowly you will go on to learning the other concepts: mass transfers, fluid dynamics, and thermodynamics, and also and anything else that has been introduced after I graduated, right? So you'll be learning all these concepts, which I call them as tools. You are being given a big tool set to have what is a heat transfer, what are the fundamentals of heat transfer, what is the mass transfer, and what fluid dynamics is, and things like that. Whereas when you get into the industry, you don't have a heat transfer problem to solve. You don't have a thermodynamics problem to solve. What you have is you have a unit process, like I showed you in the previous graphic, a chemical reaction using some notation saying that you need to heat here, you need to add here, you need to mix here, kind of thing, right? You take that and you need to put that into practice. You need to design the process around it. If it is a catalytic reaction, kind of thing, what is a catalyst, what is the rate of addition, how much residence time is there, and things like that. Some of these examples that I listed here, acylations or hydrogen reactions, hydrogenation reactions, and things like that, those are the actual problems that are presented to you when you are an engineer, kind of thing. So they say, okay, go design this. Can you go design this? Can you go, or if it is already designed, can you operate this on a consistent basis to produce whatever intermediate that you need to produce or product that you need to produce? That is one section of that. Second thing is, as part of that, you have drawn out the process, you have designed the process. I need to add this much, I need to mix for this long, and things like that. But then it comes, what is the equipment that is needed to handle that, right? Whether it is a reaction vessel or a heat exchanger, or you need to transport material from one tank or one reactor to the other tank, the material handling systems, and if it is solid liquid separation, kind of some filters and some dryers and things like that. So your task is to design some of those to make that unit process work, kind of. And a combination of these two is a process will work in an equipment if you have all these sufficient utilities provided to that, right? If you need to heat, you cannot light a burner when you have benzene or toluene as a solvent, and you'll blow up the plant, right? You need to have some steam or some heating source there. And if you need to cool it, you need to have either cooling water or sub-zero coolant or whatever it is, kind of thing. And you'll also need quite a few other utilities that you need, like purified water. You need compressed air to move things from one to the other, and one vessel to the other vessel, and things like that. So those are things that you need. That's also an essential part of our chemical engineering role. So you have, for you to make the unit processes work in those unit equipment, in those equipment, kind of thing, you need to have some of those utilities sufficiently provided and provided as needed, kind of thing. And a couple of other things that I listed here, which are probably not so attractive for some of the folks. When you come in, you want to be able to design an equipment, you want to be able to design a process, kind of thing. But you also need to deal with some of the off gases that are coming through. You need to have sufficient ventilations that are provided, kind of thing. So those things. And as processes are being run, you generate some waste, whether it is a solid waste, gaseous waste, or liquid waste, and things like that. You need to have a sufficient way of dealing with those wastes. So wastewater treatment is also a big subject or big problem area that engineers or chemical engineers are often asked to deal with. I mean, I myself have to deal with quite a few things. And solvent recovery is one, because for you to make the processes work and all, you need to be able to recover the solvent, reuse the solvent, and things like that. So these are certain things. So what I'm going to conclude is like you are being given all these tools as you are learning, but when you get to that, it will be a combination of all these tools that you will be using to solve these problems, kind of thing. Those are the problems that are interesting to the organizations across the world, kind of thing. Okay. So, to illustrate what we do or what we practice, kind of thing, I laid out a few examples in the next few slides, kind of thing. So I'll start with this. Anybody, I mean, most of you must have either used ibuprofen at some point of time, or have seen somebody use ibuprofen, or or at least have heard of ibuprofen, right? That is the classic anti-inflammatory product that we all use. It's off patent since 40 years, available for probably 20 rupees and things like that. But if you ask a chemist, this is what he draws out. He takes first ingredient, some aluminum chloride catalyst and things like that, gets onto the second step and further on kind of thing, finally until the ibuprofen molecule is synthesized. So what chemists deal with is, how can I make this into this chain? How do I attach this oxygen ring here? How do I attach this methane bond here, kind of thing? So they devise ways in terms of what conditions, what catalyst is needed to go from stage one to stage two, kind of thing, and further on kind of thing. Their emphasis is, how do I make it work? Plus also, when I finally get to this ibuprofen, does it have the desired ibuprofen, or does it have undesirable impurities, kind of thing? If so, how can I remove them? How can I make the ibuprofen the highest quality? Nobody wants 80% purity of ibuprofen, right? You want 99.99% of ibuprofen. So you want to have all those impurities removed, kind of thing. So that is the focus of a chemist in the lab. So they do that. They give you the process, and once somebody gives you this with some parameters listed here, kind of thing, what, as a chemical engineer, what do you need to design the plant around it? I mean, if somebody tells you, can you make 20 tons of ibuprofen, how do you make that, right? So you need to know more information, like what operating parameters do you need, like what temperature do I need, how much residence time do I need, how long do I heat, if I heat too long, what will happen, if I heat too less, what will happen, and things like that, right? So you need that. Plus, what addition sequences do you need, and things like that. So you need all those. You will ask all those questions, and then you'll come up with either a batch process or a continuous process. What I illustrated here on the left is a batch process. Again, this is like a typical, this is not, don't go on saying that, okay, you can build an ibuprofen plant by using this sketch, kind of thing. This is just an illustration, kind of. So you take the reagents, put them into a reactor, mix them, heat them, do certain, make sure that the reaction happens, and then you have to filter that. For filtering that and to take out the undesirable impurities and all, you would use some solvents and then go on. So stage one to stage two to stage three and things like that, until you have purity of ibuprofen that you need. This is also showing you that you have dried it, solidified it, dried it, and things like that, and then things like this illustration goes on to like taking it into a tablet, kind of thing. You granulate it, you compress it into a tablet and things like that. This is one way of manufacturing ibuprofen. Let's say engineer A came up with this. What this is called is a batch manufacturing process, right? So it's basically a sequential flow. You go from stage one to stage two to stage three, and things like that. There are some advantages to it where you have control over it, kind of thing. If one batch goes bad, you can rectify it, go on to the next batch and make it, kind of thing. But also there are some disadvantages where each batch has to be tested, and plus you are dealing with like you are having to store, start, and things like that. So there are some advantages and disadvantages of batch processes, but pharmaceutical industry has been working with batch manufacturing since a long time. So most of the operations still work on batch manufacturing processes, but there's an emphasis on going to continuous manufacturing. So I'm saying, and in engineering, A could translate that process into something like this using a batch manufacturing process. And engineer B could probably come up with a continuous manufacturing process. Again, this is not entirely representative of this. So what I want you to pay attention is these block diagram, block arrows, kind of thing. These are inputs. You provide one input here, take it through a reaction vessel, kind of thing, and then take it out. I mean, maybe there is some solvent here he's trying to recover and get it, and that solvent is used in the subsequent stages and things like that. So what I'm illustrating here is Like this is more like a continuous process kind of thing. They're coming from this, going all the way up to here, and then taking that and going all the way up to here kind of thing. So for a process like this, what you need is you need to design accurately so that nothing gets stopped in the middle, nothing gets blocked in the middle and things like that. You need to have the mixing rates defined properly. You need to have the flow rates defined properly, and the whole thing kind of thing. It's a little bit more complicated, but doable, and people have been doing it. And in some products, this option works, and they do continuous manufacturing. May not be the entire product, but some stages of the manufacturing they use continuous manufacturing. It's not the majority though, but it is doable. So that's one example. And some other examples that I listed here, I'm not going to go into much detail, but uh, I had the pleasure of installing some liquid extraction columns kind of thing working in India. So where you have some impurities in the solvent, you need to remove them and make the solvent reusable, distillate, and reusable kind of thing. Those are things that only chemical engineers can do, and you need all the tools that I listed in the past to design something like this. Okay. Okay. Remember, I talked about utilities there. The steam. This is a classic steam generation network. Uh, for generating steam, it's not like your domestic hot water generator, right? Where you plug in and then hot water comes in, kind of thing. Where here you take a heat source, whether it is coal or oil or something like that. You burn it, generate the steam. I mean, dislove the water and generate steam kind of thing. That's only half the battle. You need to take the steam to the desired point, the process heaters and shell and tube heat exchangers and things like that. So that means the distribution of usually in the plants, boilers and steam generators are centralized. You want to have one big steam generator sitting in the middle of the plant or in one corner of the plant kind of thing, and then you have distribution networks taking the steam to every point where it is needed kind of thing. And once you take the steam there, to do that, you need to design the pipe appropriately, design the sizing of the pipe so you don't lose too much pressure. Steam is a very hard commodity, right? You are spending a lot of energy in generating it. You don't want to lose during distribution. You want to take it to the process heaters and wherever you need it in the most efficient way kind of thing. So that is very critical, and most of the times we end up being tasked with that. Once the steam is utilized, what happens is it converts into, I mean, once it has given its latent heat to the process fluids and things like that, it is converted into the condensate, right? Condensate is like gold for me. I mean, like, I don't want to waste it because it's purified water. It is in the loop. Why do I want to send it to the drain? I want to collect all the condensate and use it as mix it with the fresh water. So something like this is again a task for chemical engineers. Again, you not every plant need to be installed every year. Once you install it, probably it'll last for like 20 years or something like that, unless you have the demand growing up. But if you have an opportunity, this is the great thing that people jump in and design things like that. Okay. The other example that I showed is a little bit more less chemical engineering relevant, but it's something to do with the fluid dynamics and things like that. In the pharma industry, when you get to the final product and all, you want to have it protected from the environmental air and things like that. So you have different clean rooms, what we call. There are different classifications here. I just gave you an idea of what a clean room of ISO 1 means and all. ISO 1 is the purest form of clean room kind of thing. You have very little particles allowed in that, so you need to have air circulations and things like that. That's one thing, that it's basically essentially a big blower supplying air into various rooms, maintaining different pressures in the different rooms, so that impure air is not entering the cleanest area kind of thing. So that's one area. A clean room design is one thing that you will probably hear. If you guys are interested, maybe I can speak more on this later. But again, that's some area that frequently we are tasked with to design or improve or troubleshoot and things like that. Okay, so those are all the examples of the general chemical engineering concepts that we have we typically use. Eh, let's move on to the pharmaceutical industry, right? So, I mean, I've been working in this industry, so you guys probably want to hear what I've done and things like that. So, when you hear about pharmaceutical industry, two things in short is what you will be hearing. What dosage form it is. Is it solid, liquid, semi-solid, viscous, blah blah kind of thing, right? I mean, how is it given to the patients? That's one thing. You'll hear dosage forms and on a consistent basis. Second thing is, how is the drug delivered to the patient? What is the route of administration? Is it given orally? Is it given intravenously through vein, or is it a topical like an ointment kind of thing where you rub it on your skin and things like that, or is it under the skin, subcutaneous kind of thing? I'll give you an example. All these tablets and capsules and gels and things like that, these are all oral treatments. Any drug that is delivered through an IV bag, and like mostly oncology products are the long-lasting treatments and things like that, they're all intravenous. Topicals, as you know, all these ointments and creams and painkillers and things like that. Subcutaneous are, what do you say? Yeah, the vaccines are subcutaneous, or any of these normal, just under the skin, right? Delivered under the skin, they're all subcutaneous. So these are things that are we are categorized. Whenever we hear of a pharmaceutical, is it a solid or liquid? What how is it given? That's one of the important things. And all these manufacturing processes are designed around to cater to that kind of thing. When you talk about industry as such, pharma industry as such, again, this is my interpretation to make it as succinct and short as possible for you guys to understand. Is you have an active pharma ingredient or API or bulk drug industry kind of thing. That's one industry. Second thing is finished pharmaceutical industry comes in different fashions, like synthetic drugs, most like the ibuprofen, ranitidines, naproxens, and things like that. They're all synthetic drugs. You take some raw materials, inorganic chemicals, mix them, purify them, and take them in. That is the synthetic drug. Whereas you also have these biologics. You take a cell, uh, you put it into a cell line, extract the protein, purify it, and inject into the patient kind of thing. Most of these oncology products kind of thing, cancer curing products kind of thing, they're all biologics kind of thing. So industry, you probably hear small molecule, large molecule, synthetic drugs versus biologics. That's one of those categories. When you say finished pharmaceutical manufacturers, one other name that you keep hearing is branded drugs versus generic drugs kind of thing. You probably already know about this. Generic drugs are the drugs that are already off patent. When somebody discovers the drug and does all the clinical trials and gets the approval, they're given a protection for the drug. Nobody can copy the drug. That is the patent, right? So the patent, country to country it lasts, but usually about 10 to 15 years is where the patent protection is there, given to that innovator of the drug, innovator of the product. So once the patent is off, anybody can make it. People take a tablet or take a this thing, do the reverse engineering, what we call, saying that if this is like this, if I test it like this, how can I make it, right? They can go back and peel the layers and try to figure out how to make it. In the first 10, 15 years when the patent is protection is on, they cannot do that. So that's the distinction. The branded drugs are the ones who are still in the patent kind of thing. That means they are still under the control of the innovator products kind of thing, innovating companies. Whereas generic or off-patent drugs are older products, legacy products, are things that have gone through these 15 years of patent period. The another category of finished drug industry that you hear is the over-the-counter pharmaceutical kind of thing. They're nothing but generics, but they're much more simpler. Some generics, if you go to a doctor, there are some medicines that you cannot buy until a doctor prescribes it for you. You need a prescription because they're regulated. Somebody needs to monitor when you're taking them. The either is it is working or safety issues are working effectively or not kind of thing, right? Whereas the over-the-counter medicines are more generic, like somebody like a crocin or paracetamol and things like that. These are these are what we call OTC pharmaceuticals kind of thing. That's the distinction between the generic and OTCs. And you're probably hearing and maybe watching in movies and things like that, these cell therapies and gene therapies. You're taking the gene, editing it, putting it back into the patient, and curing the patient, or sometimes making these giant apes and giant gorillas, and yes, they show in the movies, right? These are all gene editing techniques. They're coming up. That's one segment of pharmaceutical industry that is just generating, that's developing. That is the new biotechnology field that is developing energy. So in a sense, when you talk about pharmaceutical industry, these are the names that you keep hearing in different fashions, kind of thing. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have the opportunity of working in some of the industries, not all of them. Cell and gene therapy is not something that I can speak intelligently. I know a little, but not speak intelligently. Rest of the things, I had the opportunity of working in this, so I can speak to them, most of them. Okay. Active pharma ingredient industry, in my opinion, this is where the most basic synthetic chemistry happens. So a lot of typically very large scale reactions, they're done in large volumes. 20,000 liters, 40,000 liters is very common, and the processes are very well known. Like I said, you can Google how to make ranitidine, how to make ibuprofen. You will come up with multiple papers, because a lot of people have presented it, and it's off patent, and it is a public knowledge kind of thing. So with that, there's a lot of history and a lot of experience. You can find a lot of people who have made these kind of drugs kind of thing. Where the competitive advantage in that API industry is, whoever can make it at less cost, at very high yields kind of a thing, and also do it consistently, has a reputation of producing the quality product, they are the ones who are more successful. Those are the organizations that are more successful kind of thing. Yeah, like I said, synthetic chemistry, and these one of the side effects of this active pharmaceutical industry is they use a lot of solvents. Of course, it is reducing now with some of these environmental consciousness that is developing, but they do tend to generate quite a bit of waste. Nowadays, there is a lot of focus on green chemistry. People are developing reactions and syntheses which reduce less waste and recycle as much as possible, and one continuous processes as much as possible. All the objective is to reduce emissions, reduce solid waste, and things like that. But it is the fact that the API industry deals with, they do generate quite a bit of waste. Like I talked about, batch operations are very common in API industries kind of thing. So this is the last snippet from my side, is typically when I started in the industry kind of thing, this API industry is primarily has been an organic chemistry industry. It was run by chemists, it was designed by chemists. With that, because they don't care about efficiencies, they don't, I mean, not that they don't care about it, it's not their expertise. Their expertise is, can we synthesize, can we produce the product to the quality that we want, are the impurities controlled? Because people used to pay a lot of money for getting these products, so cost was not a big effect. But as more and more companies are coming in, India developing into this API hub and things like that kind of thing, there's a lot of pressure. So unless you are better than the next company and consistently in terms of the cost, and are able to do things where you're not sending the waste into the rivers and into the sea and things like that, you're being conscious and things like that, you cannot succeed. So with that, chemical engineers have creeped in. We are going there, we are helping them with all these improvements in the manufacturing processes or reducing waste and things like that. So right now, if you ask me, a huge number of chemical engineers work in this industry in various fields. Okay. Just a few pictures, just to guys give you an idea. This is a reactor that you see on the left. You see all these. This is where the. I mean, I don't know if any of you had the opportunity, but if you have an opportunity, go see it. Go see an API industry. Go see an industry. The fun of chemical engineering is when you see it working, not when you draw it on a piece of paper, and do the heat exchange calculations and things like that. So the one thing you're seeing is probably heat exchangers and some addition vessels and things like that. This is a reverse osmosis kit picture that I just got for you guys, water purification system. And this seems like a bottom right one, it seems like a bigger manufacturing plant. This is all the mezzanine level is what we call the upper level. There is a bottom level where the bottom of the reactor is, valves are there and things like that. But typically API industry means a lot of piping, A lot of this silver, I mean, steel thing is all insulation kind of thing. A lot of piping, a lot of huge reactors and things like that. This I would imagine at least 20,000 liters to 25,000 liter reactor kind of thing. That gives you kind of an idea of, and a lot of motors and cables and things like that. Okay. Okay. I mean, I think I talked about it, right? What chemical engineers do in the API industry. Work on waste recovery plants, we work on solvent recovery systems and stuff. Just to give you an idea, this one that I mean, this is uh, VOC or volatile organic components um, incinerator that I worked on when I was in Dr. Reddy's kind of thing. That this is an illustration of that. This is a big agitated notch filter is what it's like a continuous centrifuge kind of thing where you have enormous amount of solids that you need to separate and things like that. These some things like this are used. And this is an example of this thing, a liquid extractor plus a thin film reactor kind of thing. Some of these solvent recovery plus purification equipment kind of thing. This is some of the things that you get to do. Okay. Looking at the time. Okay, good. The finished drug industry, right? So all you see was making that ingredient API as a this thing. The finished product industry, of course, needs the main ingredient from somebody, whether it is in solid form or liquid form. Or if it is biologics, it's mostly in the liquid form, frozen and things like that. People take it and thaw it and use it, kind of thing. So in the solid dosage industry, what the unit operations that you see is finished drug industry is not so chemical engineering intensive because all you're talking about is mechanical unit operations and probably compact. I mean, the blending. If you have different batches, you need to blend them. You need to mill them to the right particle size, kind of thing, and then compactions and things like that to make it into tablets, kind of thing, tablets and insert them into the capsules and things like that. When it is if it is liquid dosage forms and all, you're talking about taking the API and diluting it with some sort of a buffer, filtering it, and then filling it. One of the main things that is finished product industry cares about is sterility and microbial control, right? Because after this, it's the next stop is the patient. You put it into a tablet, or you make it into a tablet, or put it into a capsule, or put it into a vial, and things like that. The consumer is the patient. You need to make sure that it is absolutely microbial free and sterile. You don't want any germs growing in that, because the product could be on the shelf for a while. You don't want anything growing in that. Nobody wants. You want to make the patients survive and help patients, but not necessarily in that process harm the patients, right? So sterility is very important. So that's why you see all these control, clean rooms, and emphasis on good manufacturing practices and things like that. Because of all this, there's also a big regulatory scrutiny. Agencies constantly look at the industry. How are you doing it? How are you maintaining your cleanliness? um, what controls do you have to make sure that none of these microbial contaminations are happening and things like that. One golden rule in this industry is, or in any industry, is if you don't document it, I mean, if you cannot show proof of how you have done it, somebody second verifying it and things like that, they don't trust you. So they don't, if the saying is, if it is not documented, I don't think it is if you have done it or not. So some different focus on the finished product industry. Just to give you a comparison of how the finished drug industry looks comparison to the API industry, right? Most of the times you have these enclosed areas where the operators are separated from the product handling. All these blue things that you see is gloves. So people reach into that, do the operations, whenever they need to do. And people who are working, and again, I encourage you to take the opportunity. If you have anybody that can take you to an industry and show you from far, at least. This is how people are. We call them bunny suits for fun. Like you are dressed up like a bunny kind of thing. You are completely from head to toe, you're covered. Because what we say is humans are the most particle contributing. Humans are the worst polluters when it comes to the industry. So you want to separate particles that we shred from going into the product kind of thing, because the product is exposed coming in kind of thing. So this is this is a typical example of a line where the vials are coming through, liquid is being filled in and things like that. And if they need to handle any vial and things like that, this is how they take precautions. They use forceps which are sterilized and things like that in hand. So that's why I think you can be confident when you see a product in a vial being injected into you, you can be confident because it is handled with such care here kind of thing. If it is coming from a reputed organization kind of thing. Okay. So this gives you a contrast of how the finished drug industry operations look compared to your the other bulk drug API industry kind of thing. Okay. What can chemical engineers do in this industry? Yeah, again, like I said, particle control and clean room designs is something we often talk about. This clean in place kind of a thing. You have this equipment, you need to protect it, close everything, and then clean it in place. Every between batches and things like that, it needs to be clean. Also, you need to sterilize them, keep it sterile kind of thing. Mm. People end up taking roles into validation of equipment. Validation is necessarily is the science of proving it, right? Like you know that the equipment is capable of doing that. You need to prove that by doing a sequence of experiments and things, a sequence of runs and things like that. So uh, chemical engineers end up taking roles in validation and things like that. One other thing, a specific thing is the freeze drying. You see some of these vials. I think I may have had a picture of this. So this one that we see here, it's a freeze dry vial. Compared to this one is a liquid vial, whereas this is a freeze dry. So for some products, to increase the shelf life of the product, we remove the excess moisture, make it into a freeze dry. So in that case, a product which needs to be stored at 5 degrees, 2 to 8 is what we call 5 degrees centigrade. If it is lyophilized, sometimes if the proper ingredients are put in, it can be stored at room temperature, which provides more control for transportation of the product and putting it in the clinic and things like that. So those freeze dryers are a specific piece of equipment. We are basically putting a vial, sucking off all the moisture under high vacuum and things like that. So those are some things that are opportunities for chemical engineers to get in. And um, I don't necessarily say design because there are equipment vendors that provide you the equipment based on your specification, but engineers could end up commissioning them, troubleshooting them, operating them, things like that. Okay. Yeah. So again, roles. Some of the roles that chemical engineers can take are eh, we end up running the plants. We end up supervising workforce to have all the operations run on a plant supervisors, plant managers, and things like that. And I have seen quite a few people who becoming design consultants or design engineers kind of thing. And we talked about validation. Second thing is this is something that I have done, tech transfer. When a product is being manufactured in one location in one plant, because of different needs, in some cases you may have to expand it, take it to a different plant, um, or take it into multiple plants at the same time. As a company, we are making it, but we have a new product that came in. We want to make room for that. So this product we want to transfer it somewhere. So that requires quite a bit of an effort, saying that what equipment are we using here, what equipment is available there, how can the process be transferred there, and things like that. So that those jobs are also taken up by chemical engineers. So I've done quite a few tech transfer myself. So that's one field. And then project managers, I've seen quite a few chemical engineers turning into project managers. And one of the certifications that I got is because I felt the need to understand the project management better, kind of thing. And chemical engineers end up, once you know how the product is made, where the product is going, how it is developed, and things like that, you can easily pick up the business skills, become the business lead, the supply chain leads and business leads kind of thing. You end up owning the product for the company, not owning the product for yourself, owning the company for the product. So company gives you full responsibility of making the product, distributing the product wherever it is needed, kind of thing. So those are leadership positions that I've seen chemical engineers growing into. Okay. Um, just maybe this is my last slide. The future outlook. I mean, like I said, chemical engineering is definitely one of the versatile disciplines. You get to touch quite a few fluid dynamics and things like that kind of thing, and you also can support in various industries kind of thing. So you can get into any of these. Semiconductor industry is one thing that is I've seen a lot of growth with need for chemical engineering. Petrochemical industry is, of course, as saturated as it gets. It's still there. Biotechnology is emerging. You're constantly hearing about the COVID and vaccines and things like that. Who are they, right? They're all the biotechnology experts. So anything in the cancer cure area or vaccine prevention or vaccine control, they're in high demand, and they're likely to be in high demand for a while. Because you don't ever know how many more variants of this COVID are lurking around that are going to come in, kind of thing, right? So they need people to design these processes, design the equipment, and make the products, right? Those are some of the areas that are emerging. If there is an advice that I would like to give for the graduates or students that are coming out of chemical engineering, consider adding some more skills to your skill set. Chemical engineering is a very good starting point, but consider some of the complementing skills. Like you're dealing with quite a bit of a data being generated from every part, right? So consider getting some statistical data evaluation tools kind of thing. How is the data mining is done, where the data is used and things like that. And also some business management is always helpful because you are getting into an industry. Ultimately, somebody needs to make the product, somebody needs to make it profitable enough and sell it to the right client and right patient and right consumer kind of thing. So all that is the business. So you need to know that business angle to be able to grow in the career kind of thing. So consider that. Like once you graduate out of the chemical engineering, if you are looking at some things kind of thing, these are some ideas that I can give you. Okay, so I think that's where I stop. What time is it? Yeah. You guys have any questions for me? Was it confusing? What the heck? Or
Yeah, students, now it's your turn. You are ready with the questions. Either you type in chat box or ask directly, no problem.
feel free. I am, and I'm just like you guys, normal guy. Yeah. Oh, okay. I got a question here in the chat box. Pharmaceutical industry, we typically listen to terms like BPR, SOP. How important they? Okay, good question. These are like, remember I was talking about, like, if it is not documented, it is not done kind of thing, and GMP, good manufacturing practice. BPR is basically batch production record. SOP is a standard operating procedure. So standard operating procedures are these instructions that we develop to tell people, because I want everybody to do consistently the same way every day, right? Every shift, every day kind of thing. So the standard operating procedure is like a guide kind of thing, right? You do step one, do step two, do step three, and document these fields. Sign here. Once you've done that, sign here kind of thing. That is the standard operating procedure. That's one thing. And BPR is also like a batch production record. So you take the empty batch record, fill it in. I heated it to 60 degrees, kept it for 20 minutes, as you told me in that SOP kind of thing. And here is my signature. If you have any questions, come to me. So those are very important. They are the pillars of the good manufacturing practices kind of thing. Okay. As the vaccine is stored at minus 40 degrees, how could they maintain such a low temperature while transporting? Oh, it's been done consistently. Minus 40 degrees is not such a low temperature that you need to worry about. They have these cryo transportation containers. We call them Envirotrons and things like that. They have an inbuilt refrigeration system in that. So You condition them. Once that reaches minus 40 degrees kind of thing, you put the product in, you constantly maintain kind of thing. It's been done since a long time. What's difficult in this is, during transportation you can easily manage minus 40, but ensuring that it's staying at minus 40 until it reaches the patient, right? That means all the refrigerators in the clinics need to be monitored, regulated, and all. If there is a power shortage or something like that, what is the temperature increasing to kind of thing? That is where the criticality comes in. But transportation itself is not a thing that is a thing that we do on a regular basis. Um, I'm trying to see. I mean, if the question that I'm answering, if it is not clear, ping me again. When I hear like word like pharmacopy, what is it defined? Okay, pharmacopoeial standards. See, each country has their own standards. Indian I think that's what you're going at. This person, Dilip Kumar. Um, Pharmacopoeia is the standard. So USP is what they call United States Pharmacopoeia. IP, Indian Pharmacopoeia kind of thing. These are set of guidelines that are approved by that country. Each country believes in certain things kind of thing. USP is considered the gold standard for a reason, because most of the countries follow USP. If it is tested for USP, there is a sufficient level of trust. I'm not saying IP is not good, but IP, JP, Japan Pharmacopoeia, European Pharmacopoeia, things like that, they have slightly different differences in terms of what they believe and how they document it kind of thing. But it is helpful, but yeah, you need to know what it is. But chemists and analytical chemists usually follow that kind of thing as you are starting to work on it. Okay, thanks for taking time off. Beside chemical engineer, besides some chemical or pharmaceutical career, can we get into some energy related space exploration sort of things? Certainly. I mean, I'm talking about this question from Ravi Kumar. As a chemical engineer, besides some chemical or pharmaceutical career, can we go into some energy related or space? Energy related, certainly. Space exploration, I'm not sure what. I mean, it's all in the details, right? But again, I'm telling you, like, you are being given these basic set of tools that you could go into anything. Safe space exploration, if you're talking about like some of those heat shields design and things like that, and some systems maintenance while uh, under these low gravity or no gravity situations kind of thing. Certainly energy related, yeah, there are quite a few people going into that. Fuel cells is one big area that people are getting into kind of thing. So yeah, certainly. Okay, no more questions coming through. I need to scroll back. Why pharma companies are paying so low initial salaries to chemical engineers? I can't really speak to that, Subarao. It depends on the industry. Again, my golden rule is if you don't like the salary, don't go there. Mm, I mean, yeah, that means they don't appreciate what they're doing, what you're going to do for them, kind of thing. So, um, Pawan Kalyan, thanks for giving us what is the main difference between API and biochemical industry, which is giving good chemical engineering. Okay, API industry, I think I talked about a little bit here, which is a lot more volume intensive and things like that. Good experience as a chemical engineer, you get a lot of learning opportunities in the API industry, but you need to be in the right industry, and you need to be prepared to get your hands dirty. I mean, when I say hands dirty, you're dealing with some aggressive chemicals, right? You need to make sure that you are in the right industry, which is providing all the personal protective equipment and things like that. Then it gives you a lot more opportunities because you deal with a lot of these heavy equipment, utilities, and things like that. Biochemical industry also has, but again, there the volumes are low. Nobody produces 20,000 liters of fermentation batches and things like that. Maximum 2,000 liters, 3,000 liters kind of thing. Plus, they're talking about taking cells, putting things into that, purifying cells, taking the protein and purification kind of thing. You're always talking about some living thing kind of thing, right? In biochemical industry. So it's a slightly different field, but advantages in both. Sumantraj, what are the types of sterilizing agents used in industry? Sterilizing agents, steam is one. If you can heat it to 122 degrees is the magic temperature we reach. If we reach that, you will kill all living microbial. But they also use hydrogen peroxide. They also use ethylene oxide and things like that. These are all sterilizing agents. Again, it depends on what you're trying to sterilize, and what you need to do, kind of thing. My question is, if you like to be in R&D section, what skills would you like to suggest for us? Ronald, R&D. Typical, when they say R&D and all, you're talking about taking a molecule, developing molecule. In my opinion, that is not chemical engineering. That is chemistry, right? But whereas if you're talking about taking the process and scaling it up, or designing the process kind of thing, that is more like the process R&D kind of thing, process development kind of thing. Yeah, that skills you need are, bring in your reaction engineering, bring in your the thermodynamics and things like that. These are the skills that you need. Um, Reshma, we've been seeing how all employees are being swapped with robots and advanced machinery. Keeping these as a matter of concern, how reliable are chemical engineers on their career? What kind of jobs in this way? Yeah, it's don't go too technical in terms of robots and all. Robots are a good thing, right? I mean, if there is let me give you an anecdote. There was a period of time where when I was working in Chennai and all, we used to deal with Rani nickel. If somebody gave me a robot that can handle Rani nickel instead of me handling Rani nickel, I'll take that any day. Because you generate sparks, you store it under methanol, a small inaccuracy could blow up the plant, including you, right? Including me, kind of thing. So if there is a robot that can handle that, where I can be in a glass shield and watch that operate, that kind of thing, I'll take that job any day. Anyway, so in terms of, robots need your intelligence to tell them what you need to do. So I don't think you need to be worried about that as a chemical engineer and all. Automation is everywhere, because with automation comes in efficiencies and reduction of costs and things like that. So yeah, I don't know if you like my answer, but that's what it is. Sunil, what company goes to USFDA? When a company goes to USFDA approval, what important standards the company should maintain? Everything. USFDA approval means um, they look at how the process parameters are controlled and how it is run consistently, documentation practices, quality standards, the pharmacopoeial, compendial, complying with the compendial requirements and things like that, everything. So a product should not or does not get approved if it does not check all the boxes. Otherwise, I mean, a company cannot get an USFDA approval if that does not meet all those requirements, kind of thing. Can we use the sterilizing agent in home? What sterilizing agents can you use at home? What do you need to sterilize at home? Sumantraj, I don't understand what you're trying to sterilize at home. If you're trying to sterilize, if you're talking about normal household utensils and things like that, you don't need to use ethylene oxides and hydrogen peroxide. Please don't use hydrogen peroxide. Yeah, so steam, hot water is good enough there. Kata Durga, yeah, we work with them. Okay, the last question I am seeing is, thank you. In industries, we work with BSc, MSc degrees holders. How we chemical engineers differ from them? Will the work assignments be different? Here again, depending on what you're dealing with, right? Yeah, BSc, MSc degrees are are the people that are coming in from the lab, right? They do the analyticals, they do this some of the manufacturing operations and things like that. But they cannot put on a paper and tell you if uh, a heat exchanger needs to be designed, right? I mean, if you're heating something, how much coolant should I supply to cool that? Or if a reactor if the reaction is exothermic kind of thing, how much coolant should I circulate to keep it not blowing up, right? Not heating up too fast. So I don't think they can do that. I mean, if they do that, good for them. If I don't think they can do that, so then there are differences in what they can do versus what chemical engineers can do. Dini Abraham, there is a myth working in pharmaceutical industry affects your health and our environment. What's your opinion on that? Remember, I was talking about personal protective equipment kind of thing. You could be dealing with some harsh chemicals here, depending on what kind of industry you are. But nowadays, protecting the employees is very critical. If a company is not doing that, please don't work for them, because they don't care about the employees. Then you should not work for them. If you are given personal protective equipment, use it properly. If you are given if somebody gives you a helmet, or you hold it in your arm, under your arm, and then walk around, that's your problem, right? You need to wear your helmet properly. So work only in the industries which care about employees' health, safety, and things like that. In that case, you are no different. We all deal with hazardous stuff and all. We just need to figure out how to deal with them right in a right way, kind of thing. How do you get ideas for making new drugs? I don't get drugs. Yeah, I mean, it's literature survey, right? These scientists who are developing new products and all, they are constantly looking and saying that what disease area needs what drug, and how, again, they talk about how to create a drug that provides relief or cures that thing and that particular organ, things like that. So they use quite a bit of a modeling techniques now, saying that, okay, if I need to deliver something to go to a certain part of lung or liver or something like that, what enzyme should it have, and things like that. A little bit of modeling and a lot of literature research and things like that, plus going through what has failed or what has been successful, things like that. Those are all combinations in how new drugs are developed. Uh, Let me throw out one thing though. One of the reasons why the drug development is so time consuming is not everything is successful. We say 1 in 10 if it is successful, then we had a pretty lucky year that year, kind of thing. So we constantly work on multiple candidates, assuming that something will be successful, kind of thing. Because when you're relying on computations and human body interactions and things like that, not everything goes as planned. So, okay.
I think that's the end of the question section, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I request Ms. Ria to propose vote of thanks to our speaker.
Good morning, respected Head HOD Dr. C.H. Anil, our distinguished guest speaker, Mr. Rudramurthy Bala sir, respected faculty, and my dear friends. I, Ria, would like to express a profound gratitude to our guest speaker, Mr. Rudramurthy Bala sir, for enlightening us with his knowledge. It really gave us deep insights into the topic. I'm pretty sure that this would definitely help us in one or the other way. Once again, I would like to thank Mr. Rudramurthy Balla sir for taking out time and enlightening us. I would also like to thank our head of the department, Dr. C.H. Anil, and our faculty for organizing this guest lecture. Also, thank you to all students for your attention and learning. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rudra.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Yeah, I mean, some very good questions that came through. I'm glad kids were paying attention. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
This is Anil. This is Anil, and I think I thank you. And I think we will catch you later. I'll catch you later. But anyway, very good lecture, and thanks for your presentation.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, meet you.
Yeah. Bye, sir.
Bye. All the best to all of you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.